Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Breakout players for this Nebraska Cornhuskers program heading into 2024. Until this was a hard exercise to do. I have four, you have four, but with all the returning production that you have from this Nebraska program, I don't know how many of these guys qualify as breakout candidates, but we have some names that we think make a massive impact and kind of take a massive step heading into that 2024 season. Extremely excited to get into it. Before we do, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Nebraska fans. You guys continue to show a ton of love, a ton of support to the boys, whether we're talking high school recruiting, position deep dives, transfer portal. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And more importantly, if we're leaving any breakout candidates off this list, let us know in the comment section. The best part about doing these kind of things are learning from you guys, talking ball with you guys in the comment section. So would love to hear your breakout candidates. And Dill, I'm going to kick this one off. Starting on the offensive side of the football, I'm going to go to running back Gabe Irvin. And this is me for the third straight year saying Gabe Irvin is a breakout player. And I don't think I've necessarily been wrong. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. You look at how Matt Rhule wants this offense to look, especially running the football. It's downhill. It's physical. Gabe Irvin checks those boxes. I went back to watch the Minnesota and Colorado game. Dill, Gabe Irvin was incredibly impressive early in that 2023 season before going down with the injury. And if Gabe Irvin makes a full recovery, you're looking at, in my mind, a true bell cow of this offense. Taking a look at the numbers from last year, only played 3 games, 38 carries for $196, averaged 5.2 yards per carry. Dill, here's the kicker. 3.8 yards after contact. I look at how Matt Rhule wants to run this offense. I look at Matt Rhule consistently saying, hey, we want to run for 75 yards in the fourth quarter. There's not a better running back on this roster to do that than Gabe Irvin. If he stays healthy, massive breakout year for Gabe Irvin in 2024.
You know, I don't think the addition of a guy like Dowdle is like bad for Irving at all.
Agreed.
I think, again, you kind of saw he had to carry way too much weight. They didn't necessarily have another running back. It felt like they really were comfortable running their scheme, running that physical power scheme that they ran. And then obviously when Irving was down, they kind of changed what they were doing. I think that's a good – I think Dowdle's going to be huge for Irving. I think he's going to be fresher. I think he needs to be much more productive and much more efficient. I'm kind of with you. I think he'll have a huge year. And going off that, I think you got to look at this offensive line. I think that's kind of where another place they got to make some jumps. I love what they did in their transfer portal, bringing in Mezekua, bringing back a bunch of guys. To me, I'm really looking forward to seeing Austin Evans-Jenkins step up, take that left guard role, and be like a dominant move, like body mover. I just didn't think they always did that enough last year. Again, not the biggest, not the tallest, not like that.
He's a tree stump, man. That Justin Evans-Jenkins is a legitimate fire hydrant. Scumbag by you taking my guy. That was going to be my second guy on offense. Justin Evans-Jenkins is, I think, an absolute stud. He is one dynamite in pass pro. They'll start at the back half of the season, 134 pass pro opportunities, gave up only 3 pressures, graded out as one of the best interior offensive linemen in pass protection across college football. And you look at the run game. Not only do I think, obviously, being kind of a tree stump kind of guy, low center of gravity, comes off the ball low, powerful lower half, I think he has the potential to not only be a very good pass protector, but a guy that can move bodies, be athletic enough to get to the second level. I think you're looking at an all-conference performer. Justin Evans-Jenkins, you stole my second guy, but I'm going to go on the fly, pivot to another guy on offense that I'll admit is kind of low-hanging fruit for this one, but Malachi Coleman. And what I'm so excited about, I think Malachi Coleman was kind of, forced to play a little bit more early than Matt Rhule wanted to play him. Obviously, he was a guy that coming out of high school played a lot of edge rusher, right? He was a two-way player, not necessarily the polished wide receiver. We knew he wasn't a polished wide receiver coming in. Was kind of forced to play early. Dill, given another offseason, you said it best. Like, they don't make many Malachi Colemans with the frame and the size, but also the 500-meter dash time and the long speed that he has. And we'll add, he's got one of the best quarterbacks in terms of throwing the deep ball coming in Dylan Rhule. You talk about a guy that can make game-changing plays down the field for a young quarterback. mean, Malachi Coleman, I think, burst onto the scene in 2024.
And you started to see him start to emerge a little bit towards the end of the year when he started to get a little more comfortable. You started to see him physically impose himself, drawing some penalties, doing some of those things you want to see. But I'm kind of with you. If like they just develop him into more of that like wide receiver feel for the field, being more comfortable running his routes and getting to where he's supposed to get to, and not getting stuck in man coverage and some of those things that freshmen struggle with, like, yeah, he's going to be a monster. And if they bring him along, that's something they desperately need. I think they did need more deep play threats, a guy who can really just take the top off and really push guys one-on-one, because that was probably the one thing they couldn't do last year.
And you bring in Isaiah Nayor, who is a guy that's proven to do it at the college football level. And then you have Malachi Coleman. Limited route tree. You're right. He was kind of just a vertical guy last year. What does it look like with a little bit more nuance in terms of creating separation? He's a guy that I think could be really good after the catch as well. A lot of different ways to get Malachi Coleman involved in this offense. And let's be honest, the quarterback position did not help what Malachi Coleman was trying to do as a freshman. With Dylan Rhule, and especially what he can do pushing the ball down the field, I think Malachi Coleman really takes a step in 2024. Dill, last one on offense for you here.
I'm going Carter Nelson. I think a lot of Nebraska fans be like, oh, well, he played 8-man football and he's not enrolling early. And say what you want to say about what like he's doing. You talk about those genetic freaks. I mean, there's just no Carter Nelsons in this world. And I also don't think Nebraska got enough out of that tight end position last year. I mean, Fedona only coming in with about 250 yards on the season. That's not enough yards for your number one tight end. I think Fedoni probably will be more of that complete tight end, be a little tougher in the run and do some of the things Matt Rhule needs him to do. But as that second tight end and maybe that weapon, what they maybe thought the kid from Georgia was going to be last year, I think they need something like that. I think they need a spark in the middle of the field. I just don't think that there's anyone on this Nebraska team in that tight end room who can really challenge him talent for talent.
I totally agree with you. And the Nebraska fans know there's not a bigger Carter Nelson fan than I am. I do have some questions about him playing early. One, if you're a Nebraska tight end, you're going to be asked to block in the run game. Carter Nelson's coming in around 220 pounds. I don't know what the blocking is going to look like. And you said it best. I mean, 8-man football to Big Ten football is a massive jump. Now, if he kind of learns the playbook, puts it together, this is a guy that physically certainly can make it happen. I'm not out on a guy like Thomas Fedone. I think he's just struggled with injuries. I think in 2023, again, getting his feet back under him, also not dealing with very good quarterback play, also just the lack of like the explosiveness in the passing attack really didn't do him any favors in terms of separating in those intermediate route trees. Every single defense Nebraska saw was just squeezing down. Yeah. So if you're a tight end trying to work the middle of the field with really just a lack of a deeper third passing attack, it's hard to kind of find those soft spots and work. I think Thomas Fedone, given just a more explosive passing attack and a little bit more space to operate, probably takes that step. But Carter Nelson, certainly a guy that, physically certainly ready to come on and play. Going over to the defensive side of the football here, I'm going to go and shout out, the guy that I was high on last year, and quite frankly, probably talked about him the same way I just talked about Carter Nelson. And that's Prince Will U, a guy that I did not expect to play as much as he did as a true freshman and played absolutely phenomenal, right? 16 quarterback hurries, a 10% pass rush win rate. There was a sentence in there, I promise. But Dill, what was the narrative around Prince Will U coming out of high school was, all right, he probably needs a year to put on some weight, get that college football body. As a freshman, he came out and played phenomenal, especially towards the back half of that year. You talk about, he's already had a schedule in terms of his development. Man, what does it look like for a guy like Prince Will U going into year two? I think you're looking at an elite pass rusher for this Nebraska defense, a position that you kind of missed a little bit last year.
And they need that guy on the edge because, again, that defensive line was really, really good, especially up through the middle. And being able to play physical one-on-one on guys, but they didn't have edge rushers who really won enough. You started to see Prince Will U start to be that guy. And, again, like physicality, all that, like when you move the way he moves and be able to play that way, it's really hard to block you once you start to develop a little more rush moves, develop a little more ability to get your hands on guys and push them back and do those things to set up that athleticism and start to use it. I think he started to do that towards the end of the year. And if he has a big year, that changes everything about this Nebraska defense because they did have to blitz a lot. If they don't need to just rely on the blitz, I think they can be a real problem.
He's massive because you look at Nebraska's pass rush last year, a lot of it came from the inside with guys like Ty Robinson and Nash, or disguising your blitzes. There wasn't a lot of, all right, it's 3rd and long, we're going to play. And you won't see Tony White play much base defense. He's going to move around, give a lot of different looks, but there wasn't really that edge rusher. He said, all right, 3rd and long, pin your ears back, go make it happen. They have to disguise some blitz, kind of scheme up a lot of quarterback pressures. If they can find a guy like Principal, you and Dill, I'm just going to cheat here and throw in Cam Lenhart too. Like Cam Lenhart is a guy that I think is also just a really, really talented pass rusher, kind of a different type of body, more of that speed, the power going right through guys. You got 2 young guys that are going into year 2. That's normally when you see the jump. Really excited for those 2 edge rushers. Dill, your defensive guy to start off here.
I think I'm going Javin Wright. And Javin Wright, you started to see take over that middle linebacker spot. And as his instincts for that position and comfortability got better, you just kind of saw he was a little different, had a little different gear than everyone else on that team. And you like the guys like Heinrich and Reimer, really solid players. They don't go sideline to sideline like him. I don't think they have the length. They don't have the athleticism. Like those things you kind of see with Javin Wright made you kind of think like this is true kind of new wave pro linebacker play. And again, that's not exactly what you had with those other guys playing that position. I think once he takes his position over and kind of becomes that guy on the defense, I think he's having monster.
Yeah, I don't even know what position to call. Like Javin Wright, they moved him around all sorts. He was rushing off the edge. He was playing a little nick. Like he was doing all sorts of things. I think you said it best. Like you let him settle into that linebacker role and let him go sideline to sideline, send him on some pressures. I think you're looking at a really good linebacker. I'm going to stay in that room for my next guy and go to Stephon Thompson, who 2 things that really excite me in a very similar way. We're talking about Javin Wright. Stephon Thompson, a chess piece in the front 7, can play the off-ball linebacker spot, can operate in space, also can be a pass rusher, can be a very good edge rusher. Dill, he thrived in Tony White's defense in that 2022 year. I am really excited to see him move over, maybe play that jack linebacker spot where, again, you are asked to be tough against the run, take on blocks along the line of scrimmage. You're asked to rush the passer. You're asked to drop in space. Stephon Thompson can do all of those things. It is hard to find players and personnel that can do that kind of thing. I think Stephon Thompson can. I think he can do it at a high level, and that is an extremely important position in this Tony White defense heading into that 2024 year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that is, again, like you wanted to kind of see MJ Sherman maybe mold into that and do some of that. I just think Stephon Thompson, coming from that Tony White style, knows what he wants to do. I think you might have that a little more versatility than maybe those other guys were offering. Because again, that is kind of the whole base of Tony White's defense, is to have guys who can play really across both on the line of scrimmage and on that linebacker spot. Stephon Thompson very much proved that. I thought
you said it best. Like I'm a fan of MJ Sherman. I don't think he brings you like the dynamic versatility that Stephon Thompson did. You go back to watch Stephon Thompson at Syracuse, he was all over that defense, especially for Tony White during his time. I'm excited for Stephon Thompson. And MJ Sherman's going to play a lot, but I think Stephon Thompson brings that versatility that you want.
Because I almost think MJ Sherman makes more sense just put him on the D line and let him work there. Because I
agree.
Like when Georgia recruits guys, they don't recruit them to play the way Tony White plays.
Agree.
They have their position, go beat the guy in front of you. MJ Sherman started rush the pass a little bit better, so you don't want to count him out and say he's not going to be a part of the team. I just think Stephon Thompson doing that Tony White versatile, like hybrid linebacker, defensive lineman role is just a little more better set for it.
Totally agree. Dill, you're up second breakout player for this Nebraska defense.
And I'm not even sure you can call him a breakout player, because I think if he didn't get hurt, he would have just started all year and people would really know his name. But Deshaun Singleton, in terms of, again, we talk versatility. I think you kind of look at how they played that 3-man group in the nickel safety. They all played all 3 spots, and they needed to be able to cover, needed to be able to play that deep safety and be able to have the range. Deshaun Singleton, I think he does kind of bring it all. Big, long corner at 6'3", about 200 pounds or so. That's kind of what you're looking for. I think he moves good in coverage, really smooth. He's a guy, I think, again, when you look at what that secondary did so well, able to disguise things, because they had that nickel safety battery, all three could do everything. And he, I think, was the ringleader of it.
I love this secondary. You return so many guys like Tommy Hill, Malcolm. I think Tommy Hill broke out last year. I think he could be like an all-conference kind of guy this year. Malcolm Hartsock, Marquise Buford, I don't even know if he starts. That dude's a baller. Bly Hill coming in through the transfer portal. This secondary absolutely loaded. Dude, the last guy I'm going to throw out as a breakout player, and I'm going to preface this with he's not going to start. He's not going to stuff stat sheets, but you talk about something that is vitally important to a defense at any level. And that is depth on that defensive line, depth on the inside of that defensive line. What made Michigan so special? They rotated in 4 guys that were all kind of NFL caliber defensive linemen, and they were keeping them fresh all game. You have 2 war daddies up front, right? Nash and Ty Robinson, 2 of the better interior defensive line duos that you'll see. Riley Van Poppel, he started, but played a lot of football for Nebraska as a true freshman, probably playing no more than 280 pounds. He was a guy that I think Matt Rhule definitely planned out. All right, we're going to get you in. We're going to redshirt you. We're going to put some weight on you and develop. And he just kind of became a guy that was hard to take off the field because he gave some really good reps. You saw he was undersized. You saw he still didn't have quite that college football body, but still he fights. What does it look like when Riley Van Poppel puts a little bit more weight on, gets a full offseason under his belt? Again, not going to start. He's not going to take over Nash Hupmaker, or not Nat, Big Nash. I'll just call him Nash, Slim Nash now, 285 wrestler. But Riley Van Poppel is a guy that I think provides some of that depth that I don't think Nebraska had enough of on the inside of that defensive line last year.
Yeah, they needed that. You just can't have your 2 guys playing that many snaps because you started to see it a little bit in some of the pass rush downs where they just were tired. And I'd be tired too if you're playing every down pretty much.
Yeah.
I think if they add some depth through this unit, again, it's kind of like the same conversation with Gabe Irvin. He just wore down very quickly in that year. I don't think necessarily Nash and Ty Robinson wore down exactly. I just think there's a reason every team that can do it does it, where they do rotate for essentially 2 lines. Nebraska couldn't always do it last year. Riley Van Poppel will probably be integral in their ability to kind of make that switch.
I think you made a good point. So Riley Van Poppel not only giving you good reps, but it's going to give you even better reps for Nash and Ty Robinson, who get a little bit – you get them to keep them a little bit more fresh. You talk about winning in the second half of the season, winning in second halves, keeping your big dogs fresh is a big part of that. Those are our breakout players. Would love, again, to hear from you guys. And this one was hard because there's a lot of returning production, guys that we were even pushing the envelope, defining breakout. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. Appreciate y'all rocking with the boys. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you guys later.